Yeah. Testing. Can you see my screen?
No.
No. Great. This is what we want. What about now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So testing. We already talked quite a while about JavaScript. You're probably tired, so you want just to know how to test it. All your code that you wrote, now you want to know how to test it actually, and how to create more resilient code and applications. So actually testing is a big thing in JavaScript, and especially like for last 2 years, I think. It's like a huge trend and it's everywhere. Like every single company is thinking and asking about testing, and do you know any test frameworks, libraries, etc.? Do you write tests, etc.? So this is very important for them. And the first question to you is, why do you think we write tests? Any ideas?
To check for any bugs.
Yeah, check any for potential bugs. Anything else?
To interview people.
Interview. Yeah, we don't really care about testing. We just want to make people's life very hard on interviews, pretty much. Yeah, so we have a few reasons. First thing is make your code more readable and reliable. More reliable basically. So you have less bugs because you're covering it with tests. You have less bugs. Another thing is the bugs can cause financial losses actually, because imagine that you have in a user journey you have a bug and which prevents the user to pay for something or whatever. So that might cause financial losses. That is why business interested in writing tests and make code more resilient. We also, the second religion for us is bugless code, right? And we all here really care about bugless code, and this is the highest, it has highest priority when you're writing your exercises and working on your projects. And so yeah, this is another thing. And yeah, we basically want to deliver the best experience for our users, so they will not have that many bugs, and hopefully they will have 0 bugs. We have quite a few, I would say, ways to test our code, and kind of a few systems. So this is like a very generic and very popular testing pyramid, because the lowest level of testing is unit tests. So unit tests, you basically testing every single function. So you're checking if I'm passing something into the function, executing, will I get the response that I want to? Or what happens if I not pass something, or if I forget about something? So you passing all these, you testing all these cases. You testing every single function. You don't care about functionality of the application, about how that will be rendered, like in total as a part of the system. You just care about specific function. So this is unit testing. And the next step is integration tests. So basically, on that stage, you start testing the actual things, how that will be integrated. So let's say you want to know that if I click on the button, it should open or it should create a pop-up. So you're checking, so you're imitating the click, and you checking, do you have a pop-up in the screen, basically in the DOM. In the DOM. So you don't really care about the specific function, but you care about the actual result of the behavior. So you need to check, do you have the expected result of that function or the sequence of functions. So it doesn't matter. You might have a sequence of functions. You might have like on click, You want to have a pop-up, but to have a pop-up, you just call in the function. That function will call some data from the database that will get a response, handle the response, and then render the pop-up. So you don't really care about every single step, but you care about the output, the result of that step. So this is integration. And end-to-end testing means that you're testing everything, like every single thing, basically as a user, but automated. So you're writing your tests, and you're writing tests which will basically simulate the behavior of user. That will fulfill the input with some text. It will click. It will wait for the response. I will show you that in details in a few moments. But yeah, so this is like end-to-end testing. This is like every single, basically as a user, you're testing as a user, but automatically. We have quite a few frameworks and tools to do that, which is, to be honest, it is very, very wide, and you have a lot of options. We have Mocha.js, we have Jasmine, we have Jest, we have Karma, Chai, and Cypress. So basically, they're just different tools and frameworks. For unit testing and for integration tests, we use Jest as a main thing. So I use Jest. You can use Mocha or something else, but the most popular, I think, is Jest. And on top of Jest, you can use different libraries like Enzyme, or you can use libraries like React testing library or just JavaScript testing library. Yeah, stuff like that. For end-to-end testing, we use Cypress, or some companies, they use oh my gosh, what is the name? Selenium, I think. And yeah, a few extra tools you might see for end-to-end testing is Cucumber, Gherkin, and a few more things. But yeah, the main tool is Cypress. And to show you what is that, they actually have a very nice example on their website. So this is Cypress. And basically you write your tests in Cypress, and this is what it does. It opens the browser for you to run your tests, and this is what it does. Let me just start the video. Yeah. Setup, writing, running, recording. Let me just. It will record every single step, and you can jump between them. So they actually see that they providing data, they moving elements and checking does everything work as you expect. So if you drag and drop to another thing, to another column, it will fake, it will scroll, it will open, it will do everything that user will do, but automatically. That is why we call it end-to-end testing, because you're basically testing as a user. All of that
flags when it's wrong or when it's weird.
Yeah, exactly. So because you specifying that if I click or if I click on the image, it should open or become big or whatever. And you write in this test, and if it doesn't become big, then it will just throw you an error. Or if you want to add a new to-do, it will you need to type in input, hit enter, and you should get a new to-do in the list. And if it imitates every single step, so it will write in input, hit enter, and try to find the new to-do in the list.
Mm.
So you're basically mocking all this behavior, which is great. So many companies, it depends on the company, but some companies ask the QA engineers to write tests, end-to-end tests. Some companies asking front-end developers to write automation or end-to-end tests. But unit tests, they are always on, and integration tests, they are always on developers. And in our case, on front-end developers, because this is about JavaScript. So yeah, which one should you use? This is again, it depends on the case. I think that it depends on your goals, and basically every single framework serving the same thing. It wants to make your code more resilient, and it's up to you which one you want. It depends on your specific case and your goals. If you want to test like a user journey, you probably want to have end-to-end testing. But you need to understand that every time you pick in one, it will take time to write them. And unit tests, to write unit tests is the fastest test that you can write, because it's very simple. You don't need to do a lot of work for them. Integration tests will take a bit longer, and end-to-end tests takes really a lot of time. So it always depends on the business needs. What do they want to do? Do they have time and resources to dedicate for end-to-end testing, but make sure that the application will work as it's supposed to, or they will risk and will say, okay, let's write just unit tests or integration tests just to make sure that it is actually working, and if we have any other bugs, then we just fix it later. So this is pretty much the business decision, how much resources they have and what do they want to do. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So yeah, unit tests. As I said, unit tests, you testing individual piece of functionality or specific functions. So yeah, this is pretty much it. And the example of unit tests is just you have describe. So you basically this is like with describe you're grouping your tests for specific function, for example. And you have an add function, and we have a describe, and there inside you're writing tests inside. And this is what you can see in our exercise folders. We have tests, and we're writing jest, and we're writing enzyme, and for some cases we're writing JavaScript testing library for our tests. So you can actually explore our tests and then understand how it works. And yeah, basically to understand, even sometimes it is helpful for you to explore tests to understand the requirements for the exercise or for the specific functionality. Because if you have tests, you can understand, okay, so they are testing with the object or with a string, so I should pass the string or the object, etc. So that will bring you more information about the our expectations and what you need to build. So yeah, let's go. Yeah, questions? No? So let me just quickly open I just want to open a new folder, and we can try to write some unit tests. So you might heard about TDD. Have you heard about that? TDD.
No.
So this is test-driven development. And that means that you write in your tests first, and then you write in functionality. This is like the whole philosophy around that. It's just like an approach. npm init-y. So you need to, because you need to have jest, you need to install, initialize the npm environment, then npm install jest. And we potentially want to install enzyme. Do we want to install enzyme for our case? Nah, we don't. So -- save dev. Let me quickly create Next.js, and let me create create index test or index spec.js. So that will pick up our tests. So as usual, if you want to use any package, the first thing you do is go to their website and check. So you're basically looking for get started, and this is pretty much it. So now you're familiar to write tests. You basically need to export your logic, right? So you have your module exports and you have your inputs. So let's actually do that. The other thing is, remember, Thomas, you had the problem with this export module because this is Node and this is not Node.
Yeah.
So here you need to write this in a Node style because your test will run in the terminal. That means that you need to export in a Node style.
Right.
So if you go to spec.js, I will require, let's have some math, and we will have some math. We will create a few functions for that. And we want to write functionality. It should be index, because we don't have the one. I want to write functionality to test my logic, like to sum up or something. So as you can see, the next thing is that you want to add scripts to run tests. So in your package.json here, you basically need to replace with jest so you can run it. Let me quickly actually update my npm while we are here. So you add in npm. This is what you do. This is where the command comes from when you run your npm run tests. It looking for test script. So that is why if I call it kitten, you need to run npm run kitten. So the name coming from here. Okay. Ooh. Wait a second. Sudo. I don't have permissions. It looks like they update npm like every 2 weeks because I'm keep updating and always have a new version. Great. Okay, so if I run npm test, it's running my test, and it says that your test suite must contain at least one test, and because it's empty, that is why it's failing. So what I want to do is describe, and let's call it add function. It takes two parameters. First parameter is the name of the set, and second is the callback function. Here in the set, you will have again tests, which actual tests, and again it takes the first parameter, which is normally starts shoot, and for example return total of 2 numbers, for example, right? And as a callback, here you write your like logic. So let's say I want to do const total equals mass dot add and like 2 and 5, right? And then you write in what you expect, and you type just expect, and you're saying that total to equal, and in our case 7, right? So this is what we expect. Let me just quickly add npm test. So I want to have up and running watch. So it will listen for my tests. It's not. Let me just quickly check that. Just dev Babel. One more second. Should be dash dash watch. Just dash dash watch. Nah. npm tests watch. Oh, one more dash dash. Right, this is from yarn. Okay. Ooh, what's going on? npm run tests. What's going on? Not supported. Let's test another thing. Why it doesn't like run test? Yeah, this is what we do. Failed. Please use watch is not supported without git HD. Alright, watch all, sorry. So yeah, you need to initialize git repository because by default it will look for the latest changes. So if you have a git repository and you commit your code and you start doing changes, and when you run git npm run test with watch, it will actually look for latest changes. It will not run all tests, just the latest one. So what we can do, just to show you, git init, and now my watch should work. Let me just quickly do this. Yeah. So as you can see, we are failing one test, right? And you can see that the section is add function, right? Because I have in describe add function. And here, this is the message that I have in my test. So let's create another test. Test should return valid number if one parameter is missing, right? So if I'm, for example, if I'm accidentally forget about to pass one parameter, I want to basically have this. I'm forgetting to pass this second parameter. I want to get 2, right? So this is what I expect, so I will not break my code. So now I'm failing 2 tests, right? And another one, let's have should return a valid number if 2 parameters are missing. So if I'm just calling empty function, that should return 0. So this is like a requirement from our product owner or like from the business that, hey, this is how it should behave. So if I'm passing 2 numbers, it will return total. If I'm passing 1 number, it should return the same number. If you forget about 2 numbers, you just call in the function, it should return 0. So we fail in 3 tests. Great. So now you start thinking, okay, so now I want to create actual functionality. So let's create add, right? So our function is add. And I want to have num1 and num2, right? So we start writing our function and that want to return num1 plus num2, right? Pretty simple function. So let's export module exports object and add. So look at this. We are actually satisfying the very first test, right? But we're still failing to the second and the third tests. How can we fix it? What can we do?
You create a default for the.
Yeah. How?
So the argument, one of them you after you just put in num1 equals to a value.
Equals to what?
Any value, no? Because you just need a number there.
So here again in your tests you can see what we expect. If we pass in only 1, then we want to get the same number. So let's go from top to bottom. So if we pass only this, we want to get only this number.
Mm-hmm.
So what we can do, as you said, we want to have a default. So what this can be, so we will have the same number as a result. Come on, just a simple math. We have, like, let's say 5 here. What we can add to get 5 as a result? 0. Woohoo! Yeah, great. We're satisfying 2 tests, which is great. We're almost done. And the next step is that if we omit 2 parameters, we want to get 0. So what we should do?
0.
Yep, so now save. Looks like our application finally worked as we expect. Pretty simple, right? So this is our first test, and this is how you write into your tests. And that approach, that when you write in your test first and then code, we call it TDD, which is test-driven development. So you have tests that are forcing you to write the code that will satisfy tests. But to be honest, many people, they write in code and then they start writing tests to cover all these edge cases. And yeah, so it depends. This is just an approach, but still you write in tests in both scenarios. Yeah, so as you can see, this title as a section, it comes from describe, and every single test has own name, which comes from here, from tests. Questions on this one?
No, not for me, thank you.
Okay. Then, as we're confident, let's create another test for, or maybe we want to say from business, we got a new requirement to update, to modify and enhance our logic. So let's say that we want to say that we want to sum up all numbers from, if I call the add, if I call add with, I don't know, 4 parameters, I want to get the total of all these 4 parameters. How can we do that? Like first in JavaScript, how we can handle dynamic amount of parameters.
With a for each.
For each, and where do you want to apply your for each? So we need to rebuild the add, because add is not valid anymore, basically.
Oh yeah.
Because now we have dynamic things. So we got new requirements and we want to refine and change our function. So how we can handle all of them? So we can have A, B, C, D, right? But that will satisfy only for 4. What about 5th one? Or maybe
put in a an array of items, and that array is
Yeah,
kind of obviously you can tailor it for the number of items you want to put.
yeah. This is the first approach, that we can pass an array. We can say to the user that we want you need to pass an array, which is good. Yeah, why not? Or what if the UI, I don't know, the product will come to us and say, no, we want to be user friendly. Our users doesn't know what is array. Can you actually handle just numbers with comma separation? Because they are familiar with this one. Our users are dumb as usual. We want to handle this one. So this is a trick from JavaScript. You can have something like args. And if you console log
You parse that into an array.
args, let's see what we will get. Console log, and we will have add. Oh, sorry, we don't need to console log because we have console log inside. So add. Yep. So save. Open that in a new terminal, and let's run node index. Oh, wait a second. Node.js. We should add. What's going on? Oh, right, sorry. My bad. Let's try again. Yeah, as you can see, we're getting an array, right? This is a trick from JavaScript. So it takes all your arguments that you're passing and convert it to the array. Right? So now what you want to do is just to same thing. As you said, we want to take our args dot for each. Yeah? How we can let's practice JavaScript. How can we do that? Anyone?
Can you repeat that question, sorry?
Yeah, so how we can you actually tell me how to build it, how to handle this? So we can return total. I want to return total. How can we do that?
We do a for each sum, and then for each and then we sum each argument. So for each arg, the arrow.
Yeah.
And then you need to have another variable, let sum equals 0.
Sum equals 0. Okay.
And then you sum equals plus arg, I guess.
Plus equals arg. Okay. And then we want to return sum, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let's console log that. Save.
Is it because for each doesn't work with args?
No, it works. I had a semicolon here accidentally. So we have 42. Looks like it is working, right? So before we move further and start writing tests, the first thing is that you can use reduce. I know that people try to avoid this, but you can have reduce. You might remember that. So we can remove our variable because reduce created for that reason.
What did reduce again?
Reduce method goes through your array and summing everything that you, every single item inside.
Oh, wow.
So you have accumulator and you have an argument in our case. And as a default value, you set in 0. So you want to start from 0. Sorry. And here you're basically doing accumulator plus arg. This is it. And here you're just returning, because it by default it returns the total, so you're doing this. You don't need to have this one.
Looks neater.
Yeah. Like this. Right? Definitely less code. Okay, so let's try to write tests. Looks like we have, let's check actually, are we passing our tests? Let me remove the console log from here. Save it. Yeah, looks like we're passing all tests. Beautiful, look at us. So we're starting from 0, so if you're not passing, we're still satisfying. Do you think about any other tests that we can, or any other way that we can break this function? How can we break this function? Any ideas?
If the arguments are not integers, but like, or some strings, for example, that would break.
Good point. Yeah. So that means that if I pass kitten, save, this is what we have. Right? And we have a string as a result. So what do we want to do? How can we fix it?
You have to exclude the string or select only the numbers.
Yeah, good point. So select only a numbers is better because you check in for specific thing. So what you can do here, let's wrap it back to the more readable thing, and I will explain. So now we have returned this. What can we do? We want to check the type, right, of the thing before we sum it up. So if argument, sorry, type of argument is number, then I want to do whatever I'm doing here, right? Else, I want to do what? What do I want to do? Ricardo? Ricardo. Somebody's sleeping. Julio?
Or it could return a number, or you could, but you want to carry on the sum, right?
So we basically can return the current accumulator, right? So if it's a number, we're adding. If it's not, we just returning current value. So we're kind of skipping.
Right.
So now we have 38. Yep, so if you pass an object, still working, right? If you pass an array,
yeah,
still great. Awesome. Again, how can we refactor this to something simpler? Because for me, it's hardly readable. I mean, it's readable, but it's ugly. So we want to return.
What's the question?
Too late. Everybody's answered to that.
Okay.
Yeah, so we want to refactor this one. And to refactor to the linear way, what we can do is accumulator plus equal, right? And here you can check type of argument equals to number. Then we want to have a argument, right? Else we want to have 0. So you don't need to have all this construction, just this. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So basically you always adding, but if the number, if argument is a number, you add in argument. If it's not, you add in 0.
But isn't that, I mean, what we want, that if it's not a number, then it's an error, because then you kind of implying that it is okay to have a string in your list. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So it always depends on basically business requirements, because you're right, we might have this approach, because business say, oh, if the user for any reason put the string, it shouldn't take the string, and it should just return you it just should skip it and sum all numbers and avoid strings, objects, arrays. But maybe you're right, maybe business might say, hey, if actually user pass a string, because for some reason user decide to pass something like that, right? And think that this is valid, my math is wrong.
Yeah.
So you might actually specify that this is an error and user will be aware of what's going on, that this is a problem, and how we can handle that.
Isn't there a way to put like as a param that you force it to be a number?
So you can't force it, I think, because you can try, but that means if somebody passed the actual string like kitten, and that might be broken. So you want to check are all params are numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you know any specific method? So like is all numbers? Do you have anything in mind to check is all your numbers all items are numbers?
I don't.
You want to use a filter in there?
Okay, so you can use filter and check. Basically, you will get a new array, compare by type name, and then compare the length of the original array and the current array. So this is one option, but we have a nicer way, which is you take your array and say every, and you say arg type of number. So if every single one is a number, that will return you true. If not, that will return you false. So this is a nice method from JavaScript for such cases. And now you can do something like if is all numbers, then do this, right? Go back to, we don't want to check it anymore because we know that this is definitely a number, because all of them are numbers, and we want to get rid of this, wrap it, something like that, right? Else we want to send the message return all arguments should be numbers, right? So let's test it. So now we're getting a message, right? Because we have a string inside. If you change it to a number, save, we'll get in a number. Okay, so now at least we have a function that works as we expect. So let's test it. Let's write tests for that. So we will make sure that everything is working. So if you go to our node, we are passing save. Oh, we still have console. Sorry, let me just get rid of the console. We are passing all tests for now, but we need to add more tests, right? Because we want to test should return an error, message if one or more arguments are not a number. So can you tell me how I can write my tests, please? Because I remember that nobody have questions, so I presume that we are all confident with that. Tell me. Ricardo was going to help me, right? Ricardo? Come on. No? What should I? So first, let's say I want to call my function, right, and see what will I get, and I want to compare with something to make sure that where you will say that I'm expecting or not expecting. So let's try to do step by step. First of all, I want to call the function with specific things to get the output, to get the result.
Yeah, so we want to call a function that works, right?
Yeah, so let's say total, just function that will basically return me that I'm expecting to get an error message. So I will call with 3, 5, 4, and let's say 5, but as a string, right?
Yeah.
And now I want to test, do I have a message as a response or not? The error message, this one.
Yeah, so you compare the error message you get.
Yeah. So I want to compare total with the error message that I'm expecting. Right? So I'm saying, like from business, I'm saying that if I call function with a string, I should get a message, error message. And now I want to test, am I getting a message if I pass it with a string?
Okay. Are we saying if total is that message?
Yeah.
Then it's true? Or?
Yeah. So how to write it? Remember, we have expect. So you saying expect total, it's very similar to plain English, to equal and your message.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
Expect total to equal something. Save, we're passing 4 tests now, right?
Brilliant, okay.
Yeah, so now it is working as we expect, and potentially let's add one more test to make sure that should handle more than I don't know, 5 parameters. So I want to call my function with 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 1, 6, 3 again, right? So let's do some simple math. We have 5, 10, 11, 15, 18, right? So total should be 18 in our case because it's valid, but we want to handle all of them.
Yeah.
Save. Yep, looks like it is working. So this is how you protect. That is why this is a reason you write in tests, because you want to make your code more resilient. And you're just covering all these business requirements with tests. Questions? No?
No, not for me.
Okay. Okay, so the next step is integration tests. As I said, with integration tests, you want to check for the behavior of something. It's not directly connected to the actual thing, to the actual function, but you're checking the result of some action. And to have an example, let's quickly build some counter. Let's build a counter. So for that, for integration tests, we use testing library. This is another package that we want to use. So let's npm install save dev. Let's go to testing library, JavaScript testing library. So you're installing. You have and they have examples here. This is React examples. All right, that might be a trouble now, because it needs to be compiled, so we can use it the browser in a browser, tests in a browser. But yeah, let's actually do that. Wait a second, where's my? It's been installed, beautiful. So let's remove our tests for mass, and let's add other things. So I would say we need to mock DOM. We want to imitate DOM. So let me create index.js. Do I have index.js? No. I want to create index.html. And we will create h1 counter will be 0 and button will be increment. And maybe decrement just in case. So yeah, basically if you click, let me just add class increment and class decrement. Very simple counter. I bet that all of you already know how to build one. So tell me how to quickly build the counter. So when I click on the button decrement, it should modify the number -1. That should increment +1. Open index.html. Inspect. Yeah, beautiful. Perfect UI. So tell me how to build it.
You have to select the element.
Good start. So let's say counter element, I will call it. And how to do that? So this is for H1, right?
Yeah, document. Query selector.
Query selector.
H1.
H1, beautiful, done. Next step is our buttons, right? So let's say increment button element. That will be
Increment.
like that.
You need a dot.
Class.
Class.
Yep, yeah, exactly. And decrement, decrement. Great, we have all elements, beautiful. What's next?
Add an event listener.
To what?
A event listener. A click.
Increment btn element, add event listener, click, then callback function. And what do we want to do?
You want the inner HTML
Okay.
to add one.
So in new value, let me call it. Do what?
Yeah, to add into the. Well, it can be in a text or HTML.
Inner text. Okay, inner text. Yep. Inner text. Do what?
You want to add a value to it.
+1. This is increment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next step is counter element, inner text, should be new value. Right?
Yeah.
Let's try. Refresh. Why it doesn't work? Who spots the problem? We don't have errors.
It's a string, it is not a value.
No, we don't have any errors. This is very, very dumb error, but we forgot to add it to our HTML. See? Index
But
JavaScript.
don't we need to force it to be a number also the...
This is a good point. Let's see.
Ah, yeah, see.
Yep. Buggy code. So what do we want to do with this?
It need to be, is it like is integer or is something? Is number?
Parse int. You know
Oh,
that
yeah.
this is a string, but you want to parse the number from there.
Yeah.
Refresh. Yep. And same with decrement, right? So just copy paste. Decrement. You have minus. Save. By the way, the fun fact about JavaScript, that if you have minus, look at this. It is working. It is working because it recognizes minus and start decrementing, saying that this is mass. But if you have plus, it's saying that you're concatenating string with another string. So yeah.
Funny. It's a bit messy sometimes.
Yep, exactly. So, but we want to write nice code, so we will parse the value. Yeah, okay, looks good. So now let's write tests. To write tests, actually, we need to mock. We have our JavaScript. So sorry, we want to mock the DOM. This one. And we want to join basically these three files because we don't have a webpack setup. So I think, as I remember, this is concat npm install concat to concat a few files. Let me just quickly double check because I don't remember. I think this is concat. Yeah. So I just copied from our exercises. We use another package that will concatenate all JavaScript files which you specify, and you need to specify it that way. So we have index spec.js. It's not in tests, it's just here, index spec.js. This is the output. Oh, wait a sec. Yeah, tests, let's say. Tests. So we have test.js. Let's rename this one to index. Wait a second. What is the name? Tests. Okay, yeah, I'll name that tests then. Tests.js. And the output will be spec.js. Then we want to add potentially DOM.js because we want to mock DOM. And we want to have index.js, our JavaScript, and then we have our test.js. So we're concatenating 3 files into one file. This is how that will work. And for DOM.js, we want to let me just quickly check, because you basically do this document inner HTML equals, and whatever you have by default in index.html, which is this for us. So basically you have this. This is because we don't have Webpack, that is why we're doing such things. But normally you have a builder and you can just use it as with compiler. So yeah, just forget about this. With React, it works slightly different because React has compiler and you just add in basically as it should be without concatenation. It will be processed by the compiler. Okay, so we have this and we have the code. So let's actually comment it out for a second, right? So we're not doing any actions. So our browser, it doesn't work. So let's start writing tests. So describe. And we want to have describe what? Describe, let's say increment, counter. And here we want to have our test. Test should render 0 by default, right? Yeah. So what do you need to do here? You're basically looking for this element as we're doing in JavaScript, right? And then you're writing your what? What do you want to write to check? Do you have 0? Yeah, expect. Expect what?
Counter dot inner. Right. Counter dot inner text or inner text to be 0.
So let's start inner to equal 0, right? So let's try.
Because you have a string again. No?
Yep, you're right. npm run. Wait a second. So what do we have? It didn't create a file. Why didn't it create a file? Let me just double check. So we have, oh right, we have just a different thing. it can't work with watch. When you're concatenating, it can't work with watch. This is the first thing. Let me check.
The concatenate is just to say we want to have the test for all these files. Or...
We want to, no. That means that we take in 3 files and merge it into one. I will show you the output in a second.
Oh, okay.
So index.spec.js. Here we have dom.js. Then we have index.js, and we have, oh, right. This one doesn't exist. So now that should work. Yeah. So we just created a new file, as you can see, where we have our mocked HTML, our JavaScript, and then we have our test file. Everything in one place. Yeah. And as you can see, we fail in one test because it's undefined. And the problem is Enzyme that it doesn't know what is inner text. It will look for inner HTML, and we will still fail. It will still fail because of the reason you, Thomas, said. That will be a string. Ooh, still undefined. Oh, wait a sec. Why we still have? Right, I've changed it here. Wait a sec. Where's my tests? So HTML. Save. Rerun. And yeah, you were right. We have this one. So we want to check for this, right? Great. So now we are passing one test. Now, what we want to have is the another one. So test, let me just test, should increment a number and in the DOM, right? So here we need to have our package. Now, so const from here we want, where is it? Just JavaScript. DOM testing library. Get started. Introduction. Wait a second. Where's the install? Testing library. Wait a second, please. So setup. Just DOM. Queries. Okay, let's get. First of all, we want to have fire event. You can find it here. Fire event. So this is the first method, like this. So you want to get this fire event from require test. What is a name? Proper name? React testing library DOM. So we are going here, saying React testing library DOM. So this is queries. Yeah, so fire event, setup, with Mocha, with JS DOM. Wait a second, using without jest. Okay, I think that should be fine. So we have a few methods, get by, and you can use container. So you can have like get by something by ID, by name, but in our case we can have just I'm just thinking. So let me examples. I have examples. Where is the test? Get example DOM. Wait a second. So yeah, so they doing like get element by test ID, query by test ID, and you can use actually, yeah, let's do that with test ID or with, do you want to use with test ID? Yeah, let's do that. So they have get element by test ID. This is just, that comes from them. And that means that your elements supposed to have test IDs, which is data test ID equals, and this one will be decrement, that will be increment. I might struggle a bit because I'm working with this with React, not with pure JavaScript. So let me just quickly check. Yeah, test ID. Okay, so not capitals, just test ID. Beautiful. Something like that. So now we can do here, we can find our element, right? Const increment btn will be get by test ID, and you pass in your one from here. So increment, is it increment? Are we working on increment? Yeah, should increment. So increment, right? Now you're doing fire event dot click, and on the element you want to fire your event, and then you're basically doing the same here. You're expecting for, you need to find the element, and you're expecting to have one, right? So if you run our tests, we should fail it. Yeah. Counted by element, the document fragment. What's the string? Should increment. Ooh, wait a sec. Expected container to be an element, a document or document fragment, but got string. Okay. Why it's complaining? Inner HTML container get by text name. All right, they have a different structure. Sorry. So they have the element that you want to find. The container is the whole DOM. So you want to select the DOM, document, body, inner HTML. And the next one is increment. Let's try.
And you're saying fire event, is it a React?
No, fire event is from testing library. That comes from testing library.
Okay, what React is what you were looking for when you're looking online. Okay.
Yeah, so this is just a library. They have a function fire event. The object actually, the object fire event. So you're using their object.
Got it.
Expect container to be an element. What the heck? Give me a second. That will return a div. Oh, the node module. The node, sorry. Create div. Yeah, I'm just thinking. Can we actually create by test ID? I'm just thinking, can we use query selectors here as well? Let me just test it maybe. If you have this one, call it here, let's run. We should fail test, but yeah, got it. Yeah, so we can use query selectors here. We don't need test by ID, that's fine. That's good, that will simplify our life. Yeah, something like that. So we're not doing anything, right? But if you go to JavaScript and uncomment increment, let's test it. We're still failing. Okay, why we are failing? counter element still 0. So it didn't actually trigger the event, far event. For some reason, let me check that. Far event. Have click, get by text name, right click. So you need to pass your element and where's far events. And let me just check. Far event. Click button 2. Okay, so you're passing some specific, which is fine, not for us. We're just clicking change as well. So what is input in our case? So hard to jump from React to JavaScript and to the opposite way. It's just painful. So you have create event, click node. Okay, you want to have a node. They are looking for the actual node. Yeah, that should work actually. Query selector. You have your element. Why it's not there? Should be. Wait a second. Yeah, definitely. You will not come back after JavaScript to React. After React to JavaScript, that's for sure.
I'm looking because that seems like React is the thing.
Yep, yeah, that's true. Let me just quickly double check. So why it doesn't work? So we have, or does it actually require this? Tom's saying test ID decrement. Okay, let me just do it again. It's looking for a DOM element. Let me just create query selector to DOM node. It should return the DOM node because you can do append, so it is DOM node. So why it's complaining then? So get by, wait a second, let me test this one. So get by text container, and yeah, so you're providing the scope and you're providing what you want to find. Okay, so you want to find increment in our case. Increment. Save. So that should work, but it's not. So it's saying that element but got a string. Why is right? This is not the DOM element. Let me just quickly make sure. What if we do just body? Still no. Wait a sec. Oh, wait a sec. So we are actually going further, but it's still not incrementing. Any ideas why? So it's not actually working. Parse int. So you're taking the element. We clicked. This is odd actually, because when we've clicking on the element, far event.
Maybe the type of the inner HTML.
Sorry?
In the inner HTML, when you're adding +1, maybe with the type you don't need the value in there.
No. Oh, I know why. Because we're taking the old value. It's not React. Let me try again. Still no. Okay, so we're find increment.
So you receive 0, so it doesn't increment it.
Yeah, so it's not incremented. Let me actually see. Let's put something console log, some console log, and we will see. Does it actually work? Console. Do we actually fire event? Click. Refresh. Yeah, we actually fire event. So for some reason, we are not getting, and I think I know why we're not getting, because that might be declared sooner. But no, it still should keep the reference. Let me check our concatenation. So we have DOM, then we have JavaScript. So let me just quickly check the element. And
Did you change anything to DOM maybe?
Click new. So we have it here. That should work as we expect. So when we fire the event, that should show us the element, and then that should show us the new element. Inner text is none. Huh. Look at us. Why? Right. I know why. Because inner text is not a thing in Node. That should be HTML. I think now that will work. Yeah. See? Because we're running all of that in Node, it doesn't know what is inner HTML. That is why it's just failing. It doesn't know what is inner text. That is why it's failing to do math. So you need to have inner HTML. This is like a testing limitation, right? Which is annoying, but yeah. So I'm wondering if we remove this get by test ID and remove this, and we will use just query selector. Query selector that we have here. I think that still should work. Let me rerun tests. Because I think you should be able to. No, you are not able. Yeah. Should increment the number on the DOM. Click increment. Increment button is not defined. What? Oh, sorry. Let's rerun. Yeah. So you are able to run just query selectors. You don't need their test IDs. This is for React. Okay. Yeah. So basically, you finding the element, you firing the event. You can fire events with custom things. Because imagine, this is another stuff that where is it? You might want to use event, right, as a target, and use event target in HTML. Oh, not in our case. Okay, fair enough. But sometimes in inputs, you might want to get to pass something, and with clicks or change, maybe you can have change. You can pass a second argument, which will be like event, and you can describe something like target, right? And you can do something, you can pass value. So you can actually mock some data as a second argument. But yeah, this is, you can read it in documentation to the testing library. So yeah, this is basically how you checking the behavior, right? You don't care what's going on inside the function, inside your event listener. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. You can call 20 functions inside. You don't really care. All you care is actual change on the DOM, right? So for you and for the decrement, you really care about the DOM. So here the decrement, and decrement. And that should be, in our case, 0 again, right? Because it's, so we run, increment it, change it to 1, then we decrementing. So let's run. Come on. Received, expected, sorry. What? Is it this increment? Fire increment, fire. Oh, sorry. Click. I accidentally changed the name. You should spot such things. Still no. Received 1. Decrement button. Expected 0, received 1. So why when we clicked on decrement, it actually incremented? Any ideas? Okay, if I commented out this one, will that change? Okay. So it's not actually modifying. So we incrementing, it is working, but when we try to decrement, it doesn't. Same thing, right? Inner text, inner HTML. Let's try. Yeah, so it is working. And again, we just don't really care what's going on here. We care about the output on the view, and you're testing the view change. Does it make sense?
The view change, sorry?
Yeah, the changes in the view, in the HTML, basically in the browser, right? So you care about this one, not about the actual what's going on here inside your function, inside the callback, inside the click. You don't really care about this. You care about the views, the browser. So this is integration tests. And yeah, any questions on this one? No? Yes?
No.
Okay. The next step is end-to-end testing. This is what I showed you already, but basically you're just testing everything and you mocking the whole behavior. So you mocking the typing, you mocking clicks. It will open. It's not, so here with integration tests and unit tests, everything is running in the terminal, right? So you're not actually seeing the actual behavior. But with end-to-end testing, your code and your tests will be ran inside the browser. So it will open the browser and that will run for you everything. And you'll see the actual behavior in the browser as the user sees. So yeah, here's the very, this is the basic example that you specifying for the Cypress, like go to page this, type test user in the field username, type this in the password, click login, expect page URL to be something, expect user to be username. So you write in these scenarios for the Cypress, and you write in their syntax. You can read about their syntax and how it works, but this is pretty much the main logic. And that will be, you will run this in the browser. It will, because when you open Cypress, it will open the browser, and as you saw on the video. So this is how it works. So TDD, we already spoke about that. This is test-driven development, and it's tests first, and then you have, then you write your code. Because yeah, if you write your code and then tests, it's not TDD. And the funny part of this story is that many companies writing, saying that we are looking for TDD. Do you know TDD? Do you follow in TDD? And when you join in them, there's many of them saying, "Oh, we're not writing tests," which is funny. And another part, they are saying, "Oh, yeah, TDD is great, but we're writing code first and then writing tests. But this is TDD." So a lot of funny people around with the TDD, because this is like a fancy, trendy, I would say, word, and everybody's saying that yeah, TDD is cool, but not all companies are using it, even if they write tests and talking about TDD. Yeah, so 3 stages for TDD is that you start from fail, then you write code, any code that will pass your tests. So this is what we've done with our ugly code, right? With our if, else, etc. when we were writing our sum. Then we refactor that with linear way to linear code, and we had a nice short function. And then that should basically you try, if it's not failing, try to fail it. If it's not failing, then should pass, and basically this is a cycle. So fail, pass, refactor. BDD, this is another thing. So BDD is behavior-driven development, and this is where the end-to-end test comes from. So you basically, you write in tests to satisfy the actual user behavior. That is why the whole model, the whole testing is around to write tests to kind of mock the user behavior. That is why it's behavior-driven development. And you basically, the stories for BDD looks like a navigation menu, for example. You write in as a customer, in order to see all categories of products, given that I can see a menu button, and when I click on the menu button, then I should have a menu with categories in my view. So this is a part of end-to-end testing, and BDD is a part of end-to-end testing. Yeah, I have 3 articles, very good articles actually about testing, so I strongly suggest you to read them. They are pretty good. And I think that this is it about testing for today. So during this course, we're not writing tests because we don't have time, basically. If you have time, you can write tests, of course, for all your applications and exercises, for applications, right? Because
do you reckon it's a big part of your work? Like, so if you look at, let's say, do you write like 80% of your code is normal code and then 20% testing, or half-half?
Yeah, I would say that if you, so on the previous company, that I would say that around 25% was testing and 75% was just real actual code. For the current company, we write end-to-end testing. So I would say it's like 40% of testing and 60% of actual code.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that end-to-end testing is great, is like you definitely write less bugs, but it is time consuming, so you can do less actual work.
Got it.
But with higher quality. And our students...
Do you have like people that are specialized in testing and some others in writing, or do you have to do both? Yeah, so this is, as I said, that some companies are saying that end-to-end testing can be done by QA engineers. So they are writing tests. But on my current company, as a developer, I'm writing end-to-end tests, and I'm writing all the tests, like unit tests, end-to-end tests, etc. So they are really focused on testing their code, because we are in medtech, and all this, like we're working with companies who are doing researches, studies, etc. That is why they really care about the quality. So we have
we're doing very small steps in features, but we covering everything with end-to-end tests and unit tests.
Got it.
And as so one of the previous cohorts, they said that we actually have DDD, which is here during the course, which is deadline-driven development. So because they were, they had the same quantity of exercises and projects, and they said that this is a DDD for them.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah, I think, yeah, do you have any questions?
The Twitter one is due in 7 days. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Twitter. And yeah, on Wednesday you will have. I've actually spent the whole weekend to design and build this. Not the whole weekend. Okay, the whole day. To design and build this application for you for Wednesday for the quiz game. So that should be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, I think this is it for today. Any questions, by the way?
Not for me. Maybe back on the DTD. Are there any exercises this week, or is it just the Twitter?
Yeah, good question. I don't think so that we have, because we are expecting that you will be busy with Twitter. So let me just double check. So Express, Node, object-oriented testing. Yeah, nothing. Yeah. So we're expecting that you're busy with the project. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I might. Apologies for firing a lot of questions this week again.
No problem. Yeah, this is what I'm keep repeating that. That is why we're here, so you can ask as many questions as you need to learn programming.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
I second that in the sense that I'm really impressed to see the extensive material that is covered. Like this about testing is something that most courses won't cover. And like I said, I mean, the preprocessor part, for example, obviously if you need to emphasize more on that, at least you got an idea of where to start from.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really impressed with the effort that you guys have made to put together this very complete bootcamp in literally short time. It's amazing how much it's covered.
I'm almost crying. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, some topics during this course is more like we briefly covering, like testing, for example, because our goal is to teach you programming and show you what else we have, what kind of tools we use and have. So you can, if you want and have time after the course, you can spend, but you know where to start, where to look, and basically understand what's going on. And with a Node module, we have pretty much the same. During the whole module, we are focused on building APIs, and we're covering quite a few topics that will be just very quickly covered. We will show you examples, we will show you how it works, so you can basically have a basic understanding and can try and play on your own after. But the whole module will be about building APIs and understand how to build an API. So yeah.
Yeah, I would echo what Ricardo says, and I think having these exercises, and I try and do them all, I think that is very, very, very helpful, because I mean, when you look at the when you look at the course and follow the course, you kind of on passive mode is not as good as when you actually practice and you do the exercise, you watch the video.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have questions on and then it's just like clicks, like the classes, for example, I thought clicked, and having more promises also kind of clicks with this Twitter project. So no, I echo what Ricardo just said. I'm quite happy with it. Although I don't have any background in programming, so I'm just like, it's just going deeper and deeper. I'm like, when is this stopping? But it's enjoyable.
Cool, that's good. And as you're so generous compliments, I will ask you, I'll send you links, but we need your reviews on the Switch Up platform, and I think course base. I'll send you the link, so other people can see the feedback about the course and can make their decisions.
Yeah, please send through.
Yeah, we will very appreciate your feedback there and reviews. Okay, thank you for today. And so Wednesday you will with Thomas, and next week we are starting Node module. Node. Woohoo! Right, that's the spirit. Yep.
See you guys.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm not as excited as Ricardo.
Okay, cool. Thank you. See you next week.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye.